Hi guys, my name is Karol and today I prepared another lens review. This time is Olympus 17mm with maximum aperture f1.8. Let's get it done. It is a prime lens with focal length 17mm, which is around 34-35mm equivalent in terms of full format cameras, which gives angle of view around 65 degrees. Minimum focus distance of this lens is around 25 cm, however I managed to get closer with manual focus settings on the camera. The Olympus lens operates with maximum aperture f1.8, which closes to f22. The lens is very small, it's 36mm tall with diameter 58mm. The lens uses 46mm front filters. It weighs only 120 grams, which is super light. So, making it simple, it is a small and compact lens which will always fit in your bag or most of pockets. Here you can see comparison with other Micro Four Thirds system lenses. Although the lens itself is really small, it's really well made. The entire construction is made of metal including the mount. The mount is equipped with pins in order to provide AF and other functionality. It also contains 9 glass elements in 6 groups, supported by 7 aperture blades. Blades are curved in order to provide nice and round bokeh. The Olympus 17mm is equipped with focus ring, which is the only functional element of this lens. It is a ring with clutch which gives quick access to manual focus. The focus ring moves very smoothly, and it communicates with camera body by wire. Once when you move focus ring backward in order to change to manual focus, it feels like old manual lenses, and it adds some extra resistance, like something is really moving inside the lens. Although the fact that the lens looks very solid and is really nicely made, it is not weather resistant and it doesn't have any gasket on the mount. What's worthy to admit, this lens also isn't equipped with image stabilizer, so in this case you will have to rely on built-in camera body stabilizer. If you'll decide to purchase this lens, you have to keep in mind that it comes without a lens hood. It's time for my test where I checked how the lens performs for different aperture values. Let's see results. During my first test, I decided to check corner-to-corner sharpness of this lens. At maximum aperture f1.8, the lens renders acceptably sharp image in the middle. I also noticed some quite strong vignetting and magenta fringing on edges. Closing down the aperture helps to improve all these aspects. At f2.8, aberrations are still visible. Sharpness in corners is improved, but still seems to be noticeably softer than in the middle of the frame. The best results I achieved between apertures f4.0 up to 5.6. The image remains sharp in the middle of the frame, with acceptably sharp corners. And well, these are the sharpest results I could get with Olympus 17mm. At aperture value f8, the entire image is a touch softer, in the middle and on edges of the frame. It is even worse for f11 and f16, where the lens really suffers from diffraction. During all my tests I have never achieved razor sharp images in the middle of the frame. Overall, the lens is acceptably sharp, with definitely soft corners which suffer from aberration for all aperture values. It is quite common that wide-angle lenses have issues with quality in corners. However, I expected a little bit better performance from the Olympus lens. It's time for a grid test. For maximum aperture, this lens has strong vignetting, including barrel distortions. Both horizontal and vertical lines are slightly curved close to the edges of the frame. The barrel distortions seems to be more or less the same for all aperture values. However, vignetting slowly disappears and seems to be hardly visible at f2.8. For aperture value f3.5, vignetting is totally gone. The image quality remains the same without any noticeable changes until it reaches aperture above f8, where all lines in the middle of the frame and corners are much softer. At f16, the image is basically soft due to strong diffraction. During third test, I checked AF performance of the Olympus lens together with my Panasonic G80. I decided to record simple video in demanding 4K resolution at 25 frames per second. Overall, the lens worked very well and quick. Main problems come from my Panasonic G80 AF system, which lags a bit from time to time. But once when the camera catches impulse to change focus, the lens does it quickly and doesn't hand too much. The lens has very well known Olympus MSC AF technology, which definitely works much better with AF system in Olympus cameras. Overall, I haven't noticed any AF issues while taking pictures. The lens was quick and accurate during all my tests. It's time for a short summary when I will talk about pros and cons. First of all, this lens is very well made. The entire construction feels very solid and compact at the same time. It is lightweight, easy to use and carry around, which is definitely a plus. AF of Olympus 17mm lens works surprisingly good even with my Panasonic G80. It is fast, accurate and doesn't hunt a lot. I rarely had any issues during my tests. Another thing that I really like about this lens is functionality of focus ring. When the ring is placed on its initial position, the lens sends information to camera body by wire, but once when you move the ring backwards, the lens seems to work like old manual lenses, which allows you on the best possible accuracy and eliminates issues with delay in focusing. It's not the Olympus Pro lens, but this feature definitely comes from Pro series. As a plus, I can also mention focal length 17mm, which make it super versatile lens. The angle of view which this lens offers is very useful for portraits, street photography and landscapes. It's time for minuses, and first of all I have to mention that this lens isn't razor sharp, like for example Panasonic 20 or 42.5mm, and seems to be just acceptably sharp for apertures f3.5 up to 5.6, which I think is average performance. In addition, the lens suffers from aberrations for wide open apertures. Then I would like to mention lack of weather sealing. I think some basic weather protection should be a standard for all lenses. Another disadvantage is very limited bokeh capabilities. To achieve nicely blurred background, I always had to move very closely to the object, about 25-50 cm, with maximum aperture f1.8. In addition, bokeh balls have lines inside, which are well known as onion effect. Another issue which is worthy to mention is vignetting. The lens suffers for corner vignetting for maximum apertures up to f3.5. In addition, the lens has slight issues with distortions. And the last issue, which is quite common for most of the Olympus lenses, is lack of lens hood. This lens doesn't have any specific mount for a hood, however there is a small edge which allows to install hoods based on clamp band. At this part of my video I would like to send warm regards to guys from Stavanger Photo, who was kind enough to let me test this lens for last 2 weeks. If you live in Norway and you're looking for photo equipment or service, definitely check their website. These guys always offer very professional support. And now it's time for my own opinion about this lens. It was really nice to use Olympus 17mm, especially during my trips to local mountains. Focal length of 17mm, which is 34mm full format equivalent, is a great option for portraits, landscape and combination of both. I also found this lens very useful during Christmas dinner, and its bright aperture allowed me to get some nicely looking out of focus background. Previously my preferred focal length for prime lenses were equivalents of 24, 50 or 85mm, so it was really nice experience with a lens which has 34mm equivalent. Overall I really like functionality, quality, size and weight of the lens. Olympus 17mm is really nicely made, but I would expect much better optical performance for a lens which cost around €400. Second-hand lenses are available for around €200–250, which is just fine deal in my opinion. And now it's time for a question which I always ask myself after my tests: if I would buy this lens. And well, after 2 weeks of using it, I'm actually considering to buy it, or equivalent for my full-frame Sony A7iii. I definitely had a lot of fun shooting with this small Olympus lens. What I really like about this focal length is a combination of portrait with landscape and street photography. And yes, this lens has some disadvantages, but I haven't had any big problems testing this lens during last 2 weeks. Although the lens isn't clinically sharp, it haven't stopped me to take some cool pictures during my trial. It is very versatile lens with very good build quality and average optical performance. So if you are looking for all-around prime lens, I think you should consider Olympus 17mm f1.8. It gave me a lot of fun and even more nice pictures. If you've ever had an opportunity to use this lens, let me know down in comments what's your opinion about it. I hope you found this video useful and informative. If you did, press a like button and subscribe my YouTube channel. That's it for today. Thanks for watching and see you next time.